Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, here we are every week. I mean, it should just be like a standard meeting every week, every Friday. Come and see us inside EMS. I'm Chris. That's Kelly. Look at them. If you're watching us on YouTube at Inside EMS/YouTube, you can see what we look like. And we do have a voice that is made for radio. Everybody tells me, Chris, you have a great radio voice, but you're a little bit well, I don't want to say it because Kelly's the one who was saying it, but Kelly, how the heck are you doing?
I'm good, man. You got a voice made for radio. I got a voice made for shadow puppets. So or a face made for shadow puppets. So I'm good, man. I'm still drinking from the fire hose, trying to put together this curriculum and schedule up here in upstate New York and learning the players in the game, and it's getting a little better.
Well, what's the big challenge though of putting a syllabus together? May I put a syllabus together in 4 minutes? Come on, what the heck?
You do it if you're going to do a brand new COAMPS accredited paramedic program that graduates its first cohort in 9 months from start to finish. There's some work to be done. Thankfully, we had a good consultant, but I'm taking what he gave me and running with it and kind of making it my own. So.
What is it that, so what's the challenge with it though? I mean, kind of all joking aside though, when you think about this from the standpoint of developing a curriculum, isn't it kind of laid out in the COAMPS whatever that says this is what this is what it needs to look like?
But anyone who's read the COAMPS program manuals, it's not always easy or clear. It may lay it out, but it's in Sanskrit. And it's hard to decipher sometimes. And basically, if I'm drinking from the fire hose trying to put this together and get it prepped and packaged and ready to rock on the first day of class, the students are really going to be drinking from the fire hose because there is no wasted minute, not a wasted day, not a wasted hour. There's not a wasted minute. And we're going to be doing a whole lot of work, flipped classroom. So not a whole lot of lectures, a whole bunch of learning exercises, and they're going to be reading multiple chapters a night.
I mean, how effective is that going to be, though, Kelly? I mean, how effective is that going to be?
Our consultant that did this has done it at the University of Iowa for several years and graduated students in 9 months with a very high in the 90% the 90s. On the National Registry Psychomotor and Cognitive exams. So
what do you think
had success with it? So
what's going to, and the reason that we talked about this, actually, I think we brought this up last week, was the reason that you have to do 9 months is because the dire need of medics up in that region that you're working in.
It is bad. I thought I had bad where I was. It's bad up here. And great people. The folks of St. Lawrence and Franklin and Jefferson counties are wonderful folks, but they just, they're having to wait an hour for an ambulance for a critical emergency. And that's what
tons of volunteers right there.
We've got a few we've got a few. We got a lot of, I think there are 20 something EMS entities in St. Lawrence County alone. And a great many of them are volunteers, but they can't keep butts in the seats. And that's that's a plan we're addressing. That's an inequity and a problem we're going to try to address outside of the classroom. But our job at Clarkson is to put butts in the seats. So we're marshaling all the players in the game and getting them on the same page and trying to convince them to give up old grudges and whatnot that are
good luck with that one, man. You have to sacrifice a lamb or something at Easter.
We're going to play on the reason every single one of them got into EMS in the first place, and that's to help people. And
wasn't that before ego? Wasn't that before ego?
Not help people. Yeah, it's before ego. Right before ego.
When is this thing kicking off? Next week?
No, I've got some time. It kicks off
November,
the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So,
and have you gotten students yet?
We're getting some enrollments. We got oodles of interest. Our open house had 40 something, almost 50 people when we had our open house and introduced the program. But the actual paper got a check in hand. Here's my registration form. I want you to consider, here's my essay, and I want to interview for this class. Those are trickling in. They should step up here in the next month. So,
all right, man. Well, I'm happy to come up there on my dime, your inaugural class, and give the commencement address.
you the man. You the man. And you can sleep at my house.
Yeah.
Me air mattress,
As
Sue
soon
air
as
mattress.
I just want to stay away from the beanbag. All right. So, all right. Well, let's transition. Good. I mean, so I think that this is one of the things that's really going to be interesting for the show, though. You and I have talked about this. As you're developing this, what's the hurdles that we can talk about
Yeah.
for everybody that's out there that's going to be going through this? But then number two, as you're teaching, what's the subject of the day? You know, what are we going to, and I think we want to come up with maybe some tidbits, you know, when it comes to time talking about, you know, the anatomy of the heart or whatever it is. We don't do a lot of that clinical stuff here, but I think one of the things that it will allow us to do is you're preparing for, we'll just take that preparation and we'll move that into show and
give our listeners a taste of what's happening in paramedic class each week.
Yeah, I think that's cool, man. And you know, each week maybe we do a show a month or something. But let's talk about it. We'll go into pre-production with the team and we'll talk all about that. Of course, the team is me and Kelly and Shine and Kelly's dog. And how is he digging upstate New York?
Oh, Shine is loving it. He is perkier. He's not coughing as much as he was.
He's got to stop smoking though. That dog's got to stop smoking.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a habit, and we're trying him on Nicorette and
do the patches. Yeah,
putting the Nicorette in his pill pockets.
I do want to share something. We don't usually do too many personal things here, but I'm going to give you a personal thing. Every so often, I find myself utilizing tobacco. Smokeless tobacco, chewing tobacco, whatever it is, Copenhagen. And I found this place called Black Buffalo. And Black Buffalo,
is it a store or
it's online. Well, it's online. I think they have stores.
Okay.
But people have heard of it. I just heard of it. And it is not tobacco. It's actually green plant that's dried. They still use nicotine, but it's not the tobacco. And it, you know, it's something that when we talk about this from a habit, I know I got into this because of being an EMS, right? And EMS got me into dipping, you know, Copenhagen. And I've been trying to wean myself off of it for years and years. But if you're you know, if you are using it, I know, you know, we're not here to plug things, but from a health standpoint, you know, if we're trying to break the habit, I just want to be able to give that out to everybody. Black Buffalo, check it out.
Yeah, I used to dip back in the day, every day, and I quit because I liked female companionship, and no one wants to kiss you when you got skull or.
Well, you know, you got to brush your teeth. You got to brush your teeth.
Yes, that too. Yeah. But you're eventually you lose your taste, and you don't realize it still tastes like Copenhagen.
I do want to tell a quick story though. So I'm from New York City. We didn't do those things, right? So I'm hanging out and I'm going through my training, and everybody's dipping this stuff in Texas. And then I said, give me some of that. Let me try this stuff, right? So I'm doing it. And of course, the first time I do it, I think I'm going to fall down and hit my face because I'm all swaying. But this was my first experience. So I'm driving home and I got a dip in my mouth. And this is even before I started to play with different things. It was just a regular Copenhagen. And I'm driving home and I have to sneeze. Well, I sneeze, but I don't know that I have to cover my mouth. And my whole windshield is just covered with everything that was in my mouth, man. And it was a mistake. So I had to pull over.
I started with the starter dip and built my way up to Copenhagen, and then different versions of that, and then quit for about 3 years. And I was duck hunting with some friends one morning, and they were dipping, and I said, you know what, give me some. And oh my God, lost my tolerance. That was the drunkest and sickest I have been in any memory. You know, like lying on the floor and holding onto the wall, screaming, "Don't let me fall," drunk.
Well, I don't know that we've done anything productive on this show yet. We do have things
not
that we
yet,
need to talk
but hey,
about.
we've caught up.
Yeah,
we told gripping dipping stories.
Gripping dipping, right? So we do want to talk about, you know, you and I, we spend a lot of time. We go through the the articles and the stories that are on
Yeah.
EMS one. And this one really kind of grabbed your eye, especially I think as you're now starting to develop new programs. The Idaho Task Force focuses on sustainability in rural EMS, proposed
Yeah.
legislation, and discussions take on funding, recruitment, and making EMS an essential service, which I think it should be in every area. And this comes out of the Lewiston Tribune, written by Kathy Hedberg, and it's on EMS one. Actually came out on Wednesday at 6:18 a.m. But Kelly, why don't you go ahead and set this up for the listeners?
Well, yeah, the EMS in Idaho is in the same dire straits as EMS anywhere else. They can't put butts in the seats. And anywhere you work in a predominantly rural and frontier area, as much of Idaho is, as much of upstate New York is, it's heavily reliant on volunteers. And I'm not going to get into volunteer bashing here because they're, quite frankly, regardless of what we may wish, volunteerism in EMS is not going away. There are great swaths of this country that will not have EMS, period, if they didn't have volunteers. The question is, how can they do it better and more efficiently? And how can we solve this staffing crisis? They're not, volunteer EMS is not immune. In fact, they were the canaries in the coal mine. They suffered this and began to suffer personnel and manpower issues long before paid EMS, but now it's a problem that's pervasive. And the task force there is working on incentives on how to attract new people into EMS and get them employed at these various EMS agencies and rescue squads, trying to think of innovative solutions. And without getting into great detail about what they're doing in Idaho, at least they're addressing it. At least they're cognizant of the problem and they're trying to do something about it. Be it home buying assistance, tax breaks. There are some places in some states that have advocated free college tuition, that sort of thing. There are a great many incentives we can do, but what we got to do is get people in the seats of the ambulance. And I don't think it's a generational thing. I don't think that I'm not one of those people. I used to be one of those people that said, you kids these days. And I've got a very perceptive girlfriend and partner who opened my eyes to that. It's not the kids that are bad. It's EMS has failed to adapt to the current times, and they have failed to connect with the generation that will make up their workforce.
Right.
How do we do that? What we're doing in St. Lawrence County is we're trying to get the big players to step up to the plate and help sponsor some people. We're offering scholarships as well, but to take our program, it's going to be your full-time job for 9 months. And how many EMTs can stand working, not getting a paycheck for 9 months?
Well, they're going to work at night, though. That's what they all do, right? That's what we all do.
They might. Well, we have told, and with the volume of stuff we're putting out there, the EMTs that are still going to try to finagle 3 jobs plus paramedic school are not going to make it. It's just not. They don't have the time.
But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I want
to try.
I want to touch on this, though. I mean, so as you talk about this, and as we applaud, the folks that are up there in Boise, Idaho, who are really trying to lead this effort, I think one of the things that I don't want to gloss over here that's really important is that there's draft legislation that aims to recognize EMS units as essential service. Yeah. And that's going to be similar to that of our police and fire brethren, which I think eventually, does that move into tax base for EMS as well? I would think that it has to. But I think that that's one of the big challenges now of why legislation is not happening and why EMS is not recognized as essential service. And every single day we read of a new EMS agency that closes or a new EMS agency that doesn't have the money to sustain, and they're going to close if they don't, blah, blah, blah. And, I think that this is where this challenge lies. And, Idaho now is taking the lead and really trying to do something different. As you said, they need to figure out a way to bring the the volunteers in. I mean, you're talking about some of these volunteers, and it says it in the article, Kelly. They're in their 60s and 70s now. They've been kind of doing this since the gold age of EMS. And now who's coming behind them? And now when we think about the volunteer agencies having to close or do fish fries to fill up their ambulances every Friday, we may not have any volunteers left to run these agencies.
You know, it's a problem. I don't think that trying to go to schools and recruit young adults who need a paycheck more than anything else in the world is going to work. And I'm stealing Nancy's thunder by espousing these things, but she's very convincing and she has data to prove it. But you talk about making EMS an essential service, and that was, Chris, as well as I do, that was the panacea for so long. If we were just an essential service, people would love us and they would treat us like cops and firefighters, and we wouldn't be the forgotten children at the little kids table anymore. And that's BS. Even if you're marked as an essential service, and how's funding going to magically appear? You talk about tax funded, that would be great. But if you're in a rural, super rural, or frontier service, you don't have the tax base.
How they run the cops? How they run the cops then? I mean, they got to be getting tax.
They don't. They have one or two deputies to cover one or two deputies to cover 1,000 square miles, and you wait for a cop while the burglar's kicking your door in for an hour, or you learn to shoot the burglar yourself, which that's kind of the rural way. Try to be self-sufficient because they know help ain't coming. And the same holds true for EMS. Just because we have suddenly been declared an essential service doesn't mean that funding is going to magically appear. You have to figure out a way to pay for it. Now, the question is the people that, not just the consumers, the end consumers of EMS, the citizenry, but what about the bigger players that have deeper pockets that could potentially help alleviate this problem? We were talking to one of the administrators of one of the local hospital systems. There's a large hospital network up here. He was talking about, we don't have enough people to transfer. Their hospitals are consolidating and shrinking, and many hospitals are shutting down, and they're trying to stem the tide of hospital closings. But they have less capability, therefore they have to transfer their patients out. There's no way to transfer them. So you got 2 hours one way, 2 hours the other way. Either way you go, there is the only level 1 trauma center is 2 hours away, no matter which way you go. And how are you going to get them there?
Is the hospital willing to invest in some paramedic education?
That they have expressed an interest, and they are members of the hospital board, and their EMS liaison sit on our advisory committee, and they're putting out good input, and they are anxious for some people in these seats, not only just paramedics, but critical care paramedics. That's what we need. We don't even have that. New York has critical care advanced EMTs, which is like paramedic light, in the way that Western sizzling serves a good steak. It looks the same. It's made out of meat, but it's not even close to being a real steak.
That's right. It's the impossible medic. But
that's right.
So are you picking up any New Yorkisms? I mean, Kelly Grayson has always been known for these colloquialisms that come out of Louisiana. Anything from New York yet?
No, not yet. I'm trying to teach them Kellyisms, and they're getting there, man. This is
how far are you away from Canada?
People, if I get in my car right now, I can be in Canada in about 15 minutes.
Oh, geez. All right.
So yeah, just north of us is the Akwesasne Reservation, and it borders or straddles the St. Lawrence River. So St. Lawrence River is the border. Lots and lots of Amish people in my area. So that's something I'm going to have to become better versed in, and caring for the Amish community. But otherwise,
I got to tell you, the food is amazing.
As I am, Yeah.
Amish
Oh,
people,
yeah.
I mean, they like to cook. They usually have restaurants or eating establishments that usually it's family style. I got
Yeah.
to tell you, some of the best meals I had was in Pennsylvania in the Amish communities. And it's like any other culture, man. You're dealing with people
Yeah.
who are from Muslim nations, and the
Hmm.
people here are Bosnian in the St. Louis area. We have to get used to it's the same
Yeah.
culture, and a lot of times they're not going to call when they're in need, and
No,
a lot of times they don't have a way to call you when they're in need. But
this is
it's
true.
going to be like any
This
other
is true.
culture, Kelly. We're
That's
all
right.
related. We all come from the same people.
That's true. I think in humanity in the last 20 years, we tend to have forgotten that. But
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think that, and I said to somebody the other day, I was just being nice to somebody. How's your day? Blah blah blah. And the person that was with me said, "Man, I just can't stand them. How can you be nice to them?" I said, "Man, because the guy's got a heart, and he
yeah,
deserves to be treated with respect. I mean,
yeah,
just because people may be different than you or say things that you don't believe in doesn't make them less of a human."
yeah.
And I got to tell you, man, I don't know that I always believed that either. I mean, I was egotistical, four-letter word, and I had to
I've
learn how to
softened in my old age too.
yeah. I mean, and I think that's what
But
that's what wisdom is, isn't it? That's just
yes,
what finally
yes,
what wisdom is, when you finally say, you know what, I've been judging people, and EMS and
we're not
ER.
all that
I got a
different.
friend who's an ER nurse, and she goes, "Oh my God, was I judgmental?" Someone
Yeah,
got beat up, and they came into the ER at 3 in the morning. I said, "Well, if you weren't out at 3 in the morning, you wouldn't have gotten beaten up." Well, who the heck were I? Who the heck were I to pass that judgment on him? She would say. And I think that that's a great. Anyway, we're
yeah.
babbling now. Let's go ahead and get
But
get the heck on up out of here.
let me ask you, taking it on another tack. What do you think about? What's your opinion on merger and consolidation to address some of the manpower needs and the funding and everything? It seems like to me where there is the old saying is there's strength in numbers, there's better buying power in numbers. Yet EMS squads tend to squabble and hate each other's guts and carry old grudges from a loss at a water polo match 50 years ago. That was a direct quote, by the way.
Let's stop right
Recent
there.
meeting.
Let's stop right there. That
Yeah.
is the challenge. The challenge is getting
Yes.
past the ego. Who's going to be in charge? Somebody has
Yeah.
to lose their job. There aren't two chiefs, there aren't two training officers, there aren't two. And that's where the problem. Do I believe in consolidation? Do I believe in
Yeah.
merger? I do. I think we should have county EMS. I think we should have,
Mhm.
but who's going to be the first to say, I'm going to close my doors and I'm going to retire, and I'm not going to be the chief of this department?
Yeah.
And I think that that's the hurdles that you have to be able to. It's not what's best for the community sometimes.
Yeah.
It's what's best for the person who's running the systems, and we have to be able to get past that. So I'm all in favor of
Yeah.
merger. I'm all in favor of
Me too.
consolidation, but it has to be. I'm not the one who's running those systems.
Yeah. I think it can be done. I think you can. I think inherently people are good, and you can convince them to listen to the better angels of their nature and cooperate for
Well,
the
you need
same
a hug. You're
reason
going to need
they
a
all
hug
got
and a
into
beer
this.
once that falls
No,
there.
I think so.
I'm telling you, you're going to need a hug and a beer, because it's just not going to
I need a
happen.
beer. I need a beer. There's no Shinerbach in upstate New York. Please send aid.
They have some good craft beer up there, so get to some of them
Yes, they
breweries
do,
there,
but it
man.
ain't Shinerbach.
Whatever, man.
But hey, you guys have heard what we think. We've babbled, but we've talked about the
Did we
problem as
cover
well.
anything today? Did we cover anything?
We covered some
Right.
serious stuff, man. We caught up, we bonded, we commiserated. That's what we're supposed to do. Two
That's
guys,
right.
two buddies sitting in the
Sitting in
front
the
seat of the
ambulance
ambulance,
talking.
right?
That's right.
That's right. So you've heard what we think. We'd like to hear what you think. You work in a rural EMS system. If you could snap your fingers and change it, what would you do differently? What's going to save rural EMS, not just volunteer EMS, but paid EMS in rural settings where funds and staffing and resources are few and far between? If you've got innovative solutions and answers or questions we haven't answered, give them to us at the show at ems1.com. And for myself and City Boy Chris Cebollero, thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS. Rate us on iTunes, and we'll catch you next week.